What is going on, everybody? This one's a special one, man. This one right here, son. I was like, at least for 1 week only, we've got to do it. We've got to do it, man. If you're not familiar with my Afterthoughts videos for the past, 3 years, we've been, or maybe even longer than that, we've been doing Afterthoughts after almost every single chapter for One Piece. Normally we'll get questions from people within the, either the members or within my normal community, and we'll put them together and get as many as we can possibly get to and discuss the chapters at length, right? Normally it's just for One Piece. But this week, I was like, man, I apologize to the community. I apologize to the members. But I've got to do this one solo. I've got to do this one solo, man. In this video, we will be talking about the incredible One Piece chapter 1087. The awesome Bleach Season 2, episodes 1 and 2. And the Minato special one shot. This is the big 3 afterthoughts, man. I had to do it this week. When I saw that the Minato One Shot was going to come out this week and that I was finally able to watch the Bleach episodes, I was like, oh man. What better way for the week after the Reverie than for us to do a big 3 afterthoughts. So I was like, even if it's just a one-time thing, my apologies to everyone who's accustomed to the normal format, but I had to do it for this week, man. I will have timestamps in the comment section and in the description box down below, just in case you're not caught up or into one of the or 2 of the 3 series that are here. Just make sure to skip to the part in the video that interests you, the series that interests you, or if you're into all 3, then we're gonna be eating here today, man. So I'll make it easy for you. We'll do a Naruto section, a Bleach section, a One Piece section. This is gonna be really, really cool to go through it, all 3 of them. But let's go ahead. I think the order I'm gonna go with the Naruto One Shot, and then I'm gonna go with the Bleach episodes, and then we're gonna go with the One Piece manga. And unfortunately, I still haven't gotten around to the One Piece anime yet for the last 3 episodes, which I really, really can't wait for. But I just finished reacting to the Minato One Shot, which I currently have uploading while I'm recording this. And then I also have something else that I'm trying to get uploaded as well, right? So I was like, you know what? The One Piece anime, it's on break next week anyway. We're going to get to that, even though it just started the incredible stretch of legend. I can't even begin to tell y'all how excited I am to watch that episode. Now, in episode 1069, and even the ones before it, like 1067, 1068, I can't wait to see how they adapt all that content, considering how incredible of an adaptation this has been up until this point. But let's get right into it, man. Without further ado, we're starting off with the Minato One Shot, and man, I'll tell you, I love this from start to finish. This is one of those special manga chapters that, you know, whenever a mangaka is able to come back and deliver something brand new for the series that fills in certain pieces of context, right? We had a really special version of this with Bleach a couple years ago, except it was more of a sequel than it would be a prequel. This instead was more of a prequel, right? Where we were able to see the origins of not only the Rasengan, the most iconic technique in the series, barring the Shadow Clone Jutsu, I'd probably argue. Like a Shadow Clone Jutsu and the Rasengan are probably the 2 most iconic. And with Chidori obviously up there as well, but it's mainly those. There's a lot of incredible and iconic moves there, but you know, those are the big ones. Like the Rasengan is like the Kamehameha, you know what I mean? Like I was very, very well known. And so seeing the origins of this, especially the way that it was done, by combining it with both Kushina's story, Minato's story, and how the 2 of them became more connected due to this event. How Minato was able to master the Rasengan by having to deal with Kushina's situation with the 9-tailed fox, right? I just thought it was so cool that that's how he came to perfect the Rasengan, was in the heat of battle, similar to his son, in the way that he perfected it against Kabuto. While the other legendary Sannin were having their battle, right? Once again, a 5th Hokage, a life on the line. It's one of the episodes I'll never forget watching. You know what I mean? In English is extremely iconic. Extremely, extremely iconic. But this one shot, it was just, man, Masashi Kishimoto is back. He's moving different. I shouldn't even say he's moving different. He's moving the same as always, but these brothers, these three, they move different, man. There's a reason why they were at the top of the game for so long, right? They move different. And it just felt great being able to see all this stuff. Something outside of the reaction, because I touched upon a few of these things within the reaction, but one thing that I did not get an opportunity to touch on is the imagery here, which is something I'm looking forward to talk about when we get to the Bleach stuff as well. But the spiral imagery here throughout the course of this particular chapter I thought was very interesting and allowed a lot of these sequences to tie together. They had like that one through line through most of the pages where you had the spiral, the Rasen, and you had even an explanation from Mito on how the Uzumaki clan spiral is flat, right? Well, once you get to that third dimension, and for Mito to Kushina, that's the idea of love, right? That's how that third dimension is created. That's when a helix is made, that the Rasen. I thought that was so interesting in the way that it was brought up in that way, especially the way in which the Kushina half of this chapter or her sections of this chapter was really focused on her desire for freedom, right? Being under not only the responsibility of being the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, but also being under constant surveillance, right? The two Anbu Black Ops units at all moments, having the barrier placed to where if you leave that barrier, like we're immediately gonna know you cannot leave outside of that because the Nine-Tails needs to be constrained, and we can't afford to lose you to someone who wants to come in and abduct you, stuff of that nature, right? It'd be very, very dangerous for Kushina to leave that barrier, and so her freedom is restricted, and obviously she's able to find peace and freedom in moments whenever she's with Minato. But that's where that self-freedom really comes into play, which is why I really enjoyed that conversation with Mito there at the end of the chapter. Because Mito obviously lived through that same thing. And so when Mito comes in and tells her, where is it? Right here. This incredible line of dialogue. Once they reach the top of the spiral, they finally leave the cycle, right? They leave the spiral, they make it to the top, which is something that is that Kishimoto has gone through multiple different times within the story, with breaking the cycle and stuff of that nature. But whenever it's difficult, I always come here and look up. This is the inside of your vessel. Isn't this person you are? That's right. Kushina, we may be inside a spiral, but if you have the will to climb, you should be able to find love. And once you do, the spiral shall become a helix. And it shows the Okage monument. And I find that to be so interesting because, we all have ways in which we can find our own freedom. And with the Uzumaki clan in particular, and with Mito and Kushina and being Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, they were able to find that through love. And I connecting that to Naruto's journey and how he was able to, even though he was always free, right? He was one of those individuals that, inside of his heart, because he was chasing after his goal of becoming Hokage, that in of itself gave him a sense of freedom to act in certain ways. But when he was able to transmit his love for the people around him and allow that to go into other individuals, it sort of broke their chains as well, and simultaneously ended up breaking Naruto's chains. We see that throughout the course of the entire story, not just Naruto's friends, but also the people that he opposed, right? Like that's why the Takno Jutsu thing is so prevalent within the story, and one of my favorite aspects of the story, honestly, when it comes to his conversation with Gaara, his conversation with Sasuke, conversation with Zabuza, man, like conversations with Pain and with Obito, and it's like these legendary conversations that showcase how Naruto has grown throughout the course of the series, but also how that idea, that third dimension, was continuously added throughout the course of his character journey, and that being the love that continues to grow for him, right, inside of his heart. That's why he was finally able to break Kurama's chain, allow him to turn to his side as well. The more experiences Naruto had, the more growth that he had as a person through those trials and tribulations. He was able to get to a point to where at the end of the manga, he would be able to free individuals that were extremely chained up by their pasts, right? And individuals like Obito, like Sasuke, which I just found to be so interesting how that was tied together with Kushina and adding a third dimension there with love. And like I said, everyone has that thing for them that adds that third dimension. And for Naruto, that was that. And once again, within the chapter itself, we see that Kushina's the one who actually names the Rasengan, even though Minato created it, Kushina names it. And that becoming Naruto's iconic technique in the future, every single time he uses a Rasengan now, for me, is going to be extremely different, right? Like, when I go back and I do the rewatch, I'm going to be like, man, this was named by mom and created by Pops, you know? Like, it's every single time that he utilizes it, and we see those little moments where, I remember in the final battle against Sasuke, especially in the anime, the way it was shown, where it showed like Jiraiya's hand and Minato's hand and stuff of that nature. It's like, now that's going to hit different. They were all a part of the process of creating the Rasengan. And I just love how Kishimoto was able to tie all that together, tie all of that to the themes of the series. And I appreciate that so much. So many incredible panels, so many great pages. The sealing jutsu stuff, so cool, because obviously, you know, her desire for freedom, but it's sort of, it's very strange, right, in the way that and also really, really cool, the way that she has to master these sealing techniques, these things that bind people together. But she, Minato, Naruto, these individuals are people that free people from those very same chains. And I find it to be so interesting that their clan specializes on this. And yet the one man in the future who would break more chains than anyone else within the course of the Naruto verse never learned a sealing jutsu to his name. And he was the unsealing jutsu dude, all right? He unsealed every possible jutsu on the planet in Naruto. And I having that context of the Uzumaki clan specializing within that, just it allowed it to hit that much harder, of like, man, how the cycle changes throughout the course of the story. And I love stuff like that, man, especially when it's shown visually. In these kinds of ways. Just incredible panels. This I Exist Inside Kushina at All Times panel is a Hall of Fame. I love this panel with Minato coming down. It's very similar to the panel when Naruto comes down against Kurama, utilizing that massive major Rasengan barrage, that he did in the original battle against Kurama back in volumes like this one, volume 53, 54, around there, whenever he came to master it and eventually get the chakra mode for the Biju mode, which was so awesome. But I won't let you have Kushina. Just an incredible romance tale, right? Shout out to our beloved romance manga. But just the way that it was done was just exceptional. It really brought me back in why it is that I fell in love with this series in the first place. And it's for stuff like this, right? Getting like the really cool moments that have so much weight behind them, where you can look back, reread the chapter, and be like, man, this was that, and it allowed it to have like this sense of meaning that goes beyond just entertainment value, because Naruto really was one of the first series that showed me that, especially when it comes into the realm of comics and animation, that it made me like attempt to start putting stuff together in this type of way and understand, like, yo, there's more to there's something more that I'm feeling within me than just, you know, hype or wanting to cry, whatever it is. There's a reason behind that, and discovering that here once again within the one shot and seeing it on full display, just it's a part of who Kishimoto is, and I'll always appreciate that aspect of his writing. And I thank him for it. I thank him for being him, because if he wasn't him, a lot of us wouldn't be in the game, because this series managed to get so many of us into anime and manga. And so I really appreciated my time with this one. A lot of nostalgia, obviously, but like I said, adding new context to the events of the flashback, the original Minato Kushina flashback in Volume 53, but also every single time Naruto uses a Rasengan, how he continues to, you know, break the cycle, stuff of that nature. It added context to where now when I rewatch/reread the series again in the near future, I'll be able to go into it with these eyes, right? With the eyes that have witnessed this necessary context that we didn't need, but by the flaggers am I so happy that we got, because it's going to add a lot more weight to things whenever I go back and do that rewatch and then reread again. So absolutely loved it. Loved so many parts of this one shot. And I look forward to seeing if Kishimoto, you know, has something else cooking in the kitchen. Is he working on Boruto at the moment? I still need to catch back up on the series, but I've heard that, I don't know if he's writing it, somebody else is doing the art, whatever it is. I need some more Masashi Kishimoto in my life, man. And so if he's doing the Boruto stuff now, I would love to catch up to that, because I love the way that Kishimoto tells his stories. And so if he's back in the saddle for Boruto, I would definitely 100% want to catch back up to that, but I'm just not sure if he is. Regardless, this was awesome, and I'm so grateful that we got to read Naruto again on the channel. It feels like it's been a billion years, dude. Seriously. So that was that for the Minato One Shot. Now we get into some Bleach greatness, baby, with my boy, Mr. Now You Feel Like #1, shining bright for everyone. Dude, I still can't believe in these episodes they used remixes of so many classic soundtracks, but the one that hit me the hardest was when they used the remix on the Precipice of Defeat, because even though we had heard a variation of this in the first episode, I wasn't expecting, and I believe it was also in the third episode as well. Regardless, the remix they used in this one was a new remix, and I was like, no, this goes hard. This goes hard, bro. So they covered from in these two episodes, they covered from chapters 543 to the end of chapter 551. And so they covered around 8 chapters worth of content. And what I appreciate so much about the Bleach anime, not only with the original Bleach anime, but now especially with this one, it doesn't even feel like they're covering that much content. It really doesn't. And something that really stuck out to me, when I was watching the first episode, is, and especially with the end of the second episode, is how much they're focusing on the imagery, visuals, and telling a story through certain either characters not having to say anything, where it focuses on certain parts of their expressions or their faces, which is a big Kubo trait, a big manga thing in general, but a big thing that Kubo does within the series itself. But I love how it's emphasized in this particular adaptation, where even though there might be a scene that has some dialogue cut out from the manga, you'll have that replaced and or just focused on with like a face that says more, or a picture that says more than 1,000 words. And I find that approach to be very, very interesting. There's a few instances in my mind where anime original sequences, right? The first one being the Juha origin sequence. Now, obviously, this is going to be happening within this season, but having it take place at the very beginning in the first chapter, or in the first episode, and seeing the way that was handled was so cool. I mean, the visual imagery was out of this world. So to Fiji, the Kubology was out of this world. And I found that to be such an interesting way to start the season. It really set the tone. Because then later on in the episode, when we got the Uryu in front of all of those Quincy crosses, and you come to understand those are all the other individuals that got killed by the Ashwaulan. And you're like, wait a minute. And then it goes to Uryu by himself in front of Soka Nishida's grave, right? His grandfather, the reason why he attempted so hard in this whole society arc to get back at Mairi, right? The whole Soka Nishida situation. So now you have a moment where you have these two incredible back-to-back images of Uryu surrounded by graves that are Quincy crosses, mind you. Like we're seeing this right off the bat, where Uryu by himself, solo dolo, for so long believed he was the last Quincy, because of the other individuals that were taken out by the Ashwaulan, is now standing face to face with a man who did this. But also, he is surrounded, like completely surrounded by the Sterner that have been waiting all these years for the opportunity to strike back at this whole society. And so it's like, man, you get to see how conflicted Uryu must feel at this point in time with just those two images, because it's coming off of the sequence where he's introduced to all of the people within the Star Knights, all the people within the Sterner, where they're like, man, this guy, we're bringing him on board and he's going to be like top dog? Man, like, and you already know when it comes to an organization like that, somebody comes in and shoots straight to the top. You know, like, whoa, what's going on here, son? Like, I've been here for a long time. Where's my promotion? You feel me? So I really appreciate it, especially whenever we got to see certain sections of the Hoshball. You know, how we see the way in which they sort of see Hoshball as like the second command. They even refer to him as similar to in the way that it was in the manga, but it was emphasized. Like, you're our next emperor. Like, how do you feel about this? But because of that, those Juha and Uryu sequences hit extremely hard, especially whenever you get to take in the visuals and add them on top of that, and on the other side of things with Ichigo, I loved how, especially in the second episode, when we see Ichigo traverse that path by himself. Now, this is something that Bleach has used in the past to showcase Ichigo's mentality at the time. Whenever he's going through the section of Hakamundo with Uryu and with Chad, and you see how stable and or unstable this thing can be based on your spiritual pressure and how you are at the time. Right? We saw that in the Soul Society, we saw that in Hakamundo, and the biggest instance of this was before he went to go fight Aizen, believing that he was ready to go. Right, directly after Ichigo vs Ulquiorra, whenever he cuts back, Unohana is right behind him. And that's when we find out that he's with his Shiakusho being as torn up as it was at that point in time, that was showcasing how much of his power he had right now. And my boy was, I mean, overwhelming. Where that was when Unohana was like, yo, he might be able to do this. He might be able to actually do this and take Aizen out. I mean, he's on a different level, and you saw it in his eyes, right? Even though whenever he got there, of course, he would waver once again before his entire body reached full potential with the Dangai state after that. But leading into that, we've seen this where Ichigo is in this plane surrounded by just it's going to be based on his control of his own spiritual pressure and showing his mental state, right? And in the way that's just going to be the path for him to take in order to reach wherever he's trying to go. And that's been shown visually throughout the course of the series, but the way that it's being done here is so interesting because he's training. He's in a place within the Hireo Palace where his goal, his destination, as stated by Ichibei, is to actually transcend that of Soul Reapers or Hollows or Quincy's or anything of the sort. Or I should say, transcending just the limits of a Soul Reaper. In order to fight someone like Juha, in order to go over someone like Juha, you need to not be restricted by any of that. And so I found it to be very interesting, and we were talking about that in the comments of the live stream of what this thing stated at the end of the episode was. Which, by the way, this is such an interesting line here. So right here at the end of the episode, we have rain falling. It begins but does not end. Names wither in the silence. In an abyss of rolling clouds, raindrops fill an empty vessel. Those who are unworthy to be a vessel, you see them in the path, succumb to its weight as it turns to stone. It breaks apart and turns to gravel. Pounding rain reduces it to dust. For such a vessel, there is no way out. She goes like, what is this heaviness? But if one does not enter, there is no path. You see something here at the end. Those who are about to perish call it Irazu Sando. Irazu Sando, there's a few pieces of speculation that I at least saw within my community, are, a potential Soul King name, or the name of the place that he's at, which to me makes the most sense, especially whenever Sage was bringing up the literal translation being like a path towards, I forgot what he said, enlightenment or towards a certain place, which to me fits perfectly with what Ichigo is going through at this point in time. Recon from the future here. I received a comment that I really, really liked, and I wanted to share it with all of you here in the Afterthoughts. It's from Gonapa58. It says, Bleach is black, baby. It's always nostalgic when I watch your reactions, remind me of when the chapters were still coming out. My interpretation of the end sequence with Ichigo is Ichibei's scroll says, Irazu Sando. Sando is a pathway that leads to a shrine gate. Irazu means non-entry/no entry. So Irazu Sando means no entry shrine path, and more abstractly means a path that leads nowhere. In the poem, Ichibei says that those who perish call it the no entry shrine path, because when they are not worthy of being a vessel,
They become the gravel that makes up the ground of the path and are trapped forever with nowhere to go. The raindrops reference Ichigo's theme of the rain. The raindrops fill the vessel, thus making it heavier, and those who can't bear that weight become the stone path. In my opinion, it means as a proper vessel, you must be able to bear the weight of the sadness and pain that it causes, but still walk forward despite everything. I'm gonna tune in next week, bro. Dude, I appreciate you for not only that, but for the comment as a whole, because I've been thinking about what this could potentially mean for the future of the 1,000-Year Blood War, and I think that everything you said right here not only goes in line with what I believe we're heading towards with this anime original content, but it explained it in such an incredible way that I just really wanted to share it with everyone, because this is exactly the type of stuff that I hope we get out of this. This sounds incredible, and it goes into what Kubo is trying to do by showcasing certain things visually, all right, and showing allowing the anime and the medium of anime to have the visual storytelling at the forefront and allow that to accompany Kubo's poetic nature. And so to have that additional sequence there, especially with Ichibei reading this poem, I think a lot of this makes sense and ties into a lot of the stuff that we talked about here in the Afterthoughts. And so I wanted to share this because I love it, and I think it would be an excellent path for us to take in regards to Ichigo's journey heading here into Season 2. So thank you once again, Gonappa. This was a great comment.
Now, something I really like about what we're seeing here with Bleach, in the way that it's handling both the Ichigo and Uryu stuff, which I hope to see throughout the course of the season, because they did it in Season 1. Remember, we had a lot of additional Uryu sequences in Season 1 that are now hitting much harder now that we're getting into the real Uryu stuff here in Season 2 and onward, right? In Season 1, we got all of those little additional sequences of him learning about the Quincy history, stuff of that nature throughout the course of the 1,000-Year Blood War, while everything was going on in 1,000-Year Blood War, right? In this season, we're going to be getting these additional Ichigo sequences in the middle of the part of the story where he was not really shown in the manga. And I find that to be so cool. Because even though I'll never forget those chapters when Ichigo was shown off again, right? Because we didn't see him for such a long time. But it was incredible being able to see him every once in a while, because it was always hype. But I feel like this is going to be better, as we've already seen proven through the Uryu stuff in Season 1. Because now in Season 2, we're going to see Ichigo's journey to reach the state in which he needs to reach. And I find that the way that the Bleach anime is handling both Uryu's journey and Ichigo's journey in a different kind of way within the anime to be so cool. So cool. So I'm very excited to see where this Irazu Sando stuff takes us, because this is going to be really key for Ichigo's character, especially coming off of the Blade is Me, coming to accept every single part of himself in one of the greatest moments in the series, if not the greatest moment in the series, right? So coming off of that high, where obviously the entire fandom, both anime onlys and the manga readers, like how is the series going to handle Ichigo's character arc from this point on? And obviously, we as the manga readers know where this goes from here until the end of the series, but even then, there are certain things that could be filled in to allow it to be elevated even higher with certain pieces of context. And so because we know Kubo's involved here, and based on the imagery that he's been showing off throughout the course of the first 2 episodes that we've seen throughout Season 2, I am very excited to see if this Irazu Sando stuff is going to become very prevalent for the next few episodes. Knowing what we know, right? Knowing that there's going to be some really, really goated stuff inbound with Ichigo soon. So it's like between point A and point B, we're going to see now what was in the middle of that. And that for me is what allows this to be so exciting. It's like now, because look, throughout the course of these 2 episodes, obviously, the content surrounding the Quincy's and their second invasion is absolutely hype. And it's crazy, right? The second episode was all those awesome fighting sequences. Soifone and BG9 looked excellent. Bazby versus Toshiro and Hangiku was looking fantastic. The Conqueror's hockey clashes between Mayuri and Askin, I was like, yo, injected. Hoshvald and Kyoraku, I was like, injected. So many good sequences there. And then, of course, with episode 1, keeping the Bambi scene, which I thought was really, really cool. I was wondering what they were going to do with that. But then, of course, the last 9 days, the song leading into the Quincy invasion and showing a few things from the Soul Society side as well. Both episodes were just extremely well put together, and certain anime original sequences are allowing it to flow as well as it is for television, right? Specifically for the television format. And I'm loving it. I'm loving it a lot so far, and it gives me extremely high hopes for what's to come, because obviously the next 30 chapters or so, I mean, up until the end of the arc, honestly, but specifically up until the end of the season, where I think the season's going to end, we're going to have a lot of opportunities for anime original content, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they take creative liberties with exercising that anime original content, because the manga stuff is so strong, especially with the upcoming fights, that I wonder how they're going to mess with that in terms of the flow and the structure, because they were done so well. Now, I have full faith in them to do so, because they did so with season 1. The one thing I kept stressing whenever we went into the first part of the Thousand Year Blood War was they need to keep momentum that we felt in the manga. They need to keep that. That was one of the things that made that first part of the arc flow as well as it did. And now, what I'm glad to see, or at least the way that it's being felt at this point in time, is yes, the momentum is there, but you could tell it's slowing down a bit. And that's what we need. We need a few more anime original sequences that allow things to slow down for a bit and allow all of this stuff to really sink in. And that's how I felt watching, especially these 2 episodes. And it allows for some very, very exciting stuff, because it doesn't really interrupt the pace at all. It just allows things to really sink in. So I wonder what they're going to do with the Ichigo stuff. That is by far for me the most interesting of the elements that are currently being cooked up, because I have no idea what's happening, right? Like I'm a manga reader, obviously, that I know this series front to back, left and right, and I have no idea what's happening there, and I find that to be very, very exciting. So that is going to be something I'm going to be looking out for personally. But even outside of that, the manga content that's about to be adapted is going to be sensational. The next fight is amazing, and I can't wait to see the way that it's done. Another one that's upcoming is going to be goated, and another one after that. It's going to be a really special upcoming stretch, and this next one in particular is going to be really, really cool. That has potential to be a spectacular episode. So I can't wait to see how it's done. I can't wait to see how they continue to work with it. But I have full trust that they will, based on what we've seen so far with the Thousand Year Blood War stuff. So those are my thoughts, specifically on episodes 1 and 2. Very good stuff so far. Loving the adaptation. And it didn't even feel like they adapted 8 chapters. It felt like they actually adapted less. I was shocked when I found out that it was actually 8 chapters. I was like, man, it felt like it was less. It just goes to show the quality of the adaptation up until this point. So, very, very exciting stuff. And once again, the current Ichigo plotline, the anime original plotline that they're cooking up right now, that's going to eventually, get right back into the manga stuff, is very, very interesting. And that's going to be something I'm going to keep an eye on, not only as a massive Ichigo fan, but also as someone who wants to see this anime original content at its highest degree. Because we get some of that stuff cooking at the highest level, like we had that Aizen and Juha scene in season 1, and man, it's just going to continue to elevate the Thousand Year Blood War even higher than we already have it. I mean, by the time the anime finishes its run, if it continues at this rate, it's going to be undeniable in its placement, right? Like it's going to be a really, really special experience. So that's been it for the Bleach greatness right there. And now it's time for that One Piece, man. Dude, recording this so far has just been like reliving the early days of the channel. It really, really has, man. It's been awesome. And to finish us off here, the return, the magnificent return of that Ichiro Oda greatness, man. Let me tell y'all, I was so shocked by this week's material, specifically because if I were a betting man, I would have put everything, all of my stocks, into we go back to Egghead and see what's going on with Luffy and the squad. It's been way too long. What a perfect transition it would be to go from the continent in 86 to go right back to Egghead Island. And Oda was like, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Egghead Island? We ain't going back there, baby. Y'all ain't ready for what's about to pop off on Egghead Island. We're still cooking around the world. We're still cooking around the world. And my goodness, did he cook. This chapter was absolutely incredible. I don't even know where to begin. Garp. Kuzan. Dude. This was just an exceptional chapter of manga. I love callbacks within a manga chapter to something that was stated earlier, whether it be in the arc or within the chapter itself. But whenever it's in the chapter itself, it allows it to feel more self-contained. That's how this chapter felt. Where at the beginning of the chapter, whenever you get to see the punches up against those ships, which, ladies and gentlemen, those ships are made of some tough stuff, man. And I loved it when he brought the context behind that later on with Garp and Kuza. Yo, like I said, the student-disciple dynamic is something that just resonates with me on such a personal level. That this was just hitting. It was hitting so hard. It was hitting so hard, bro. But starting the chapter off like that, we were already like, oh man, like, dude, that's crazy. And for me, I was like, are we talking about like that these punching bags, these battleship bags, were from the like something that happened just recently or like a long time ago in the past, where this is still here to this day? And I was wondering about that, right? And so obviously we got the answer later on, but man, the fact that Garp was causing so much chaos, that he was taking out people like San Juan Wolf, sending him down to the bottom of the ocean, and everybody else was like, yo, we gotta take this man out at all costs. Shiryu coming in for a cheap shot, and even that wasn't enough to keep Garp down. It was just like, dude, that panel, that parallel to, you can't do the Soda. You can't have a parallel within the chapter that has Ace in the cover page and not immediately have us immediately feel like, yo, Garp's about to die. We have Kobe in the Luffy scenario. We have Garp in the Ace scenario. We have Shiryu in the Ace situation, as we talked about in the Afterthoughts. And it's like, brother, or in the stream. And it's like, man, you can't do that to me, Oda. You cannot do that to me, bro. Garp comes down and punches the ever-loving Flagnards out of Shiryu of the Rain, man. And it's like, insane. Then there's the 3 Crown Bounty thing. I actually want to talk about this before I go into the incredible Aokiji and Kuzan stuff. Or Aokiji and Kuzan. That's how you know my brain is shattered. The Garp and Kuzan stuff. All right. Listen, the 3 Crown Bounty thing is so cool to me because it's like, it makes me wonder, how high does it go? Are we going to have a scenario? Because obviously the highest bounty in the history of piracy that we know of is Rogers at 5.5. So it makes you think, are we going to have a scenario where admirals have 3? The fleet admiral in Akainu and Sakazuki potentially has 4. And then maybe, I don't know if they'll put a bounty on that. That would be awesome. If they put a bounty on the Gorosei's heads, right, and they have 5. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, Gorosei Imu have like 5. Fleet admiral 4. And then the admirals have 3. Establishing that sort of system, which to me would be really, really cool, considering, Roger and Whitebeard being the 2 pirates that have the 5 billion, and I'm going to assume Luffy's going to be there very, very soon. Very, very soon, with potentially a Blackbeard, Shanks, right? Which I think, like I said before, if I'm a betting man, I'd probably go Luffy Blackbeard, having the 5 bills, because of how dangerous they're going to be to the WG in particular. But it would be really cool if the Gorosei and Imu were to also share that 5-star type of thing. Or 3 stars could be just the highest that it goes. Who knows? So regardless, I love how Garp is seen as such a massive threat that he got a 3 crown bounty, same as an admiral. It's obviously due to legacy, but also what we're seeing right now. Garp is him. At an old age, we see what he's doing. Now, obviously, we've heard the legends. We know this man used to go at it with Prime Roger. We know the man was known as the hero back, especially in the God Valley incident, right? And everything that he's done ever since. We know that he denied the position of admiral because he does not want to serve the Celestial Dragons directly, because he just can't stand those guys, right? He wants to be free in that type of way. And of course, we also know that of what happened with Don Chinjiao. So it's like we know Garp is him. But to see it on full display, where he has a sword wound in his chest, and he's still going up in like swimmer, like is it 100% healthy, while also fighting his student? He's fighting an admiral, bro. Aokiji Kuzan fought Sakazuki, which for me, I troll Clifford the Big Red Dog all the time. But I have Akainu extreme. I put a lot of respect on Akainu's name. Akainu and Kuzan, the series has led us to believe up until this point, are individuals who are in the same caliber, right? These are two dudes that are on the same level. Garp is fighting a Fleet Admiral level dude, out of his prime, going up in like swimwear. Are you kidding me? He's him! He's him! And it's the way in which the series is representing this stuff, man. It's incredible, because obviously we know Kuzan is going at this with a heavy heart, going up against his teacher, but so is Garp. And so take all of the scaling stuff to the side, and what you have is an emotional masterpiece of two individuals who love each other so much, but at this current point in time, they cannot see eye to eye. And that's what makes this so not only emotional, but it's also going to make the consequences of this ring extremely hard if Garp actually does end up dying. Because how much is that going to weigh on Kuzan's conscience? How much? To the point to where now that we know that Jaguar D Sol is alive, it's like, man, what is Oda going to be cooking with Kuzan? Whatever ends up happening with Garp, whatever ends up happening with him, Kuzan's going to be a different man coming out of this particular section of the story. Right, going into the next part, we know based on chapter 1081, he does not want to allow another Ohara to happen again. That's not going to happen. So how is he going to move coming out of this arc? I'm really, really curious. I just want to go through this flashback real quick as Kuzan puts on the ice glove. This is some really, really cool stuff. An apprentice, don't tread on my freedom. Learn from the Navy instructors. I'm done with that. I'm ready for the next level. Take me on as an apprentice. Shut up and buzz off! You better not use hockey. It won't help you learn. I can't even use that stuff yet. People, they put dents. They put dents in battleships. They put dents in these things that are made of like the thickest of the thick within the One Piece verse. Things that are meant to go up against cannonballs, right? That these things are meant to solidify and defend people on that ship from anything that is coming at them on the sea. They're not using hockey. Those imprints that we saw earlier in the chapter was straight hands. Straight hands. We cut over. Can't believe my sons are revolutionary now. And we get to see how Garp, and of course now my grandson says he'll be a pirate. And we see how Garp used these moments with Kuzan as sort of this moment of vulnerability, where he was able to be by himself, have someone to listen to him. And as I talked about in the reaction, I really feel like this is Garp's moment of him, you know, everybody has their stress, their thing that they do for stress relief, right? Like some individuals will use like a punching bag, others will play video games, others who experience entertainment, whatever the case may be for stress relief, right? There's multiple different ways. In Garp's case, training, but not only just training, using the battleships as punching bags whenever he's feeling stressed out, right? And also complaining about this stuff to his student. So the fact that he trusted Kuzan so much that he entrusted him with these secrets, that knowing someone of Garp's, of the way that he is, the way that he keeps so many of these things inside, right? That he doesn't really speak to other people when it comes to his problems, which is why, once again, that A situation, the Dadan situation, back in the Marineford and post-Marineford stuff, they hit way harder, and they already hit extremely hard. I love those scenes. Those are two of my favorite scenes in the series. The Dadan scene and the Ace scene in Marineford. So it's like seeing the type of man that Garp is, and not really sharing the type of stuff with other people, not wanting to be as vulnerable, not showcase the vulnerability to others. The fact that he was always that way with Kuzan just really makes this stuff hit that much harder. Where now that very same person that he entrusted, that very same person that he entrusted the future of the Marines to, the person whom he thought was actually, who he actually like raised to be an individual that would not become a revolutionary or a pirate, a person who was going to carry the flag of the Marines, whom he wanted to be the fleet admiral of the Marines, someone who could take it in the right direction in the future. He's fighting as a member of the Blackbeard Pirates right now. It's like, how much is that digging away at him? And that's why he'll say those type of things of like, man, as of right now, you're expelled, and stuff of that nature, and it's like, how much does that hurt? And then right here, when Kuzan says this, it's like Flagnards. So we get this line directly after, you raised a formidable foe, right? And in the TCB, we had it was like, man, you all you've done is raise yourself some villains, right? Like your enemies. You just raised a bunch of enemies, like Dragon, Luffy, me. It's like, man, you can't raise any of them, right, son? And Garp is like, consider yourself expelled, you dunce. And we get the best panel of the chapter, my favorite panel of the chapter, which just truly showcases grown men throwing hands and emotions that can only be understood by throwing hands, especially by two people who know each other so well, who know each other through their fists. As we have seen throughout the course of the flashback, when it came to their moments of vulnerability, when both of them were going to be vulnerable and allow each other to express certain things that they would never tell anyone else because they trusted each other that much, they would go out and deliver punches to these battleship bags. They always spoke through their fists. And now, when they're fighting each other, they're literally speaking to each other through their fists. I mean, can it be any more shonen battle manga than that? I don't know, but I don't want it to be. This is what I'm talking about. This is why I read manga. It's for stuff exactly like this. And I say that with full-blown student, teacher, disciple bias stuff. That is my stuff. That is my jam. All right? That is one of my favorite things in storytelling. And to see it done and executed as well as it has been to this point with the Garp and Kuzan stuff, it has been brilliant. And I cannot wait to see where Oda's going to take it from here on, especially when we go to the end of the chapter. And I assume that Garp is talking about either Kobe, Aokiji, or both. Whenever he has the parallel to Doflamingo speech, when he says, don't panic, justice will prevail. Right? And that of course, can be left up to interpretation, which is why it's such an incredible way to end this chapter. But for me, whenever I think about this panel, I think about the way that this entire section has been structured, is Garp entrusting so much to the future of the Marines, building up these members of Sword so that they can live on one day without him. Right now, I'm not saying this is going to be an automatic confirmation for his death, because I'm not sure. The death flags are there, but this is Oda, this is the final saga. We don't know what types of ankles will be broken. We don't know if Garp will be captured, if he'll be killed, if he'll live, whatever the case may be. Garp right now is looking at the future of the Marines. He's looking at these individuals who are sure to take his mantle and carry it into the future. People like Kobe, Helmeppo, Groose, Hibari, obviously Smoker, Kuzan, whom he hope and would love to have back with them in the Marines, but is currently a Blackbeard pirate. And so it's like, now on Egghead Island, seeing how certain Marines have that internal conflict, individuals like Lucci. I hope Smoker comes in and also has to do that. Shout out to Randy Troy. We had that conversation over on his channel. Smoker potentially having that moment within Egghead Island. And it's like, man, there's all these opportunities for Marine growth and for them to make their own decisions while being under the pressure of their superiors. And the one man who does not succumb to the pressure of his superiors is Garp. And so it's like, when Garp says, don't panic, justice will prevail, and once again in a parallel to the Doflamingo speech, is he referring to justice will prevail in terms of the overall grand spectrum of the winners will always be justice, right? Or is he doing it in terms of, because he believes in those that he has brought up, and those that he's raised, the younglings that he has raised, that he believes that no matter what takes place here and now, the Marine system that he has believed in this entire time will eventually prevail, because justice is going to win at the end of the day. Is this just Garp's ideology coming out to the forefront? I believe it is. I believe it is more than I believe that it is a direct Doflamingo parallel, because what we have seen throughout the course of chapter 1080, 1081, and now 1087 is how much Garp has come to believe in those individuals that are directly under him, how much he truly loves those that he brings up under him. It's why Dragon and Luffy becoming revolutionaries and pirates and criminals really hurt him. Ace, because these are people that he truly loves and wants to keep under his wing forever, because he understands, he sees the potential within them. He wants to see that potential realized in what he believes is the true justice of the world, in his worldview. And now he's seeing people, individuals like Hibari, like Groose, like Kobe, like Helmeppo, that are carrying that ideology, that are carrying what they believe to be the proper sense of justice under someone like Garp. And so when he sees that, when he sees something like what happened with Kobe in this chapter, or what happened with the rest of the sword members in this chapter, where he's like, man, even though I continue to lose all of my disciples to whatever it is, to life that carries them in another direction, there are still individuals, other sons of mine, other grandchildren of mine, that are willing to carry on that mantle. And so no matter what happens here today, no matter what takes place, do not have any worries. Bogard will save us. The civilians on the ship will not be hurt, and justice will prevail, because I believe in those whom I have trusted to bring with me on this journey to the island full of lead. He came here with a purpose. He came here bringing the people in which he trusted, to the point to where he did not let Sengoku and them know that he was coming. He came of his own volition, because he said, this is my responsibility, this is my journey, that's my idiot grandson, my adopted grandson in Kobe, that I have to go rescue and bring him back. And so while he's in the middle of this mission, he's like, you know what? Justice is going to prevail. And I love that that's the final line of the chapter once again, because not only is it open-ended, but it really fits with how we've seen Garp's character throughout the course of these 3 chapters in 1080, 1081, and now 1087, with the way that it's been explored through this invasion of the island, on the island full of lead. And I'll tell you what, man, I've always been a Garp fan. I've always loved Monkey D. Garp, especially whenever we get those moments of showcasing his sense of freedom, his sense of purpose, his ideology being tested, his sense of justice being tested, such as the scene with Ace. He's such a compelling character, very complex character. The Dadan scene as well. I mean, Garp has had so many phenomenal scenes throughout the course of the series. It's always been such a great character, especially in the face of people like the Celestial Dragons and stuff of that nature. The way that he represents that side of the Marines has always been a great symbol to look towards. But these chapters in particular, and especially this one, has just made me extremely attached to his character, more than I ever have before in the past. And obviously that's new design, obviously that's Oda attaching us to this character for whatever is about to take place. Like I said, whether it be the Garp death flags, Garp captured, whatever happens with Garp from here on out, I am more attached to this character now than I was before this entire section started. And of course that's because we're finally getting more spotlight on him, but it's the way in which it's being executed that has allowed me to really be like, that's my guy. I love this dude. Not only am I biased towards the Monkey D family, but he's genuinely him. How can you read this chapter and not be like, that's him? That is him, man. Doing everything that he's doing at this point in time at a major disadvantage in enemy emperor territory, getting stabbed in the middle of his stomach, in an emotional disarray after of having to fight one of his favorite disciples, his proud, the disciple that he always believed would be the one to carry the mantle of the Marines. He's fighting him right now. And even in the midst of that, he is still taking care of business. Not just taking care of business in terms of physical action. Taking care of business as a character. Taking care of business of continuing to be that symbol for Kobe and Helmeppo and Groose and everyone else to look up to and be like, that's who I want to be. And it's like, man, it's very reminiscent to the Whitebeard situation back in Marineford, where no matter what that man went through, he continued to serve as that thing that everyone could look towards and be like, I want to be like that man. I want to follow that man to the ends of the earth. That is what it means to be a real man. And I love how we are seeing that now with Garp. And once again, it makes me really, really afraid for his life, because not that I'm super attached to his character, I feel like when I was getting really attached to Ace and Whitebeard back in the day, they both passed. And so what is going to happen with Garp? I have no idea. Will we even cut back to the Garp stuff next chapter? I have no idea. I have no idea, but I absolutely love the way in which this chapter handled that entire thing. It was just structured extremely well, and I loved every single second of it, man. Avalo Pizarro, with this thing that he's about to bring forth, this massive, humongous hand with the island fruit, inject whatever's about to take place. Whether Bogard goes up and like somewhere, whether someone else comes in to intervene, whether Garp himself gets up and starts handling, take care of business, whether Kobe awakens, conquers hockey, whatever it is, I am here for it, man. I'm here for more Marines greatness, because it has been fantastic so far, especially the stuff with Kuzan, his internal conflict, seeing that on full display, and Garp and his as well, and how that continues to clash between the two, especially whenever we see stuff like that incredible page, man. You raise a formidable foe, consider yourself expelled, you dunce, and they punch each other. Just brilliant stuff. Now, what's coming up next, man? Who knows? When it comes to Egghead Island, who knows, right? I want to say we're going to be here for 1 or 2 more chapters here on an island full of lead. On Hachinosu, just continuing to flesh out this entire scenario here with Garp, the members of Sword, the Blackbeard Pirates, and everything that's going to happen here. Because obviously it's going to have major importance in what's going to take place in post-Egghead. But I wonder if Oda wants to cut out to something else and then cut back to this. Like, will we cut out to potentially the cross-guild stuff with the Seraphim units on Empty Bluffs Island? Or are we going to cut to the Revolutionary Army, right? Like, mobilizing? Are we going to cut back to the Orani Joa and some important piece of information there? Or are we going to cut back to Egghead Island finally next chapter? I don't know. But what I do know is, based on this, since chapter 1079, Oda has been building a lot of around-the-world content that we need to see, that we need the context for, that we need to understand the severity of stuff happening around the world and characters that are moving to certain places. So when things start popping off at the end of the Egghead incident, as well as in post-Egghead, it will make sense to us, right? And so with that being said, I'm going to say right now, we stay here next chapter, and maybe even the chapter after that as well. And then we come back to Egghead Island. I think that's what we're going to be doing. At least that's what I would love to see, considering how great this content has been so far. But if we cut to something else, I'm not going to complain. You know what I mean? I'll take any around the world and or Egghead. I can't wait to cut back to Egghead Island. But as of right now, I think we're going to stick with this Garp stuff because of how good it's been, and also the level of importance that it feels like this is going to have for the transition into the next arc, whatever that will end up being, Elbaf, the moon, whatever the case. It feels like this is going to be one of those major key consequential things that is going to be all over that post-Egghead section, right? So because of that, we need to spend some time here, see what's going to happen. But we could also end off on a cliffhanger after this and not come back to this for quite some time. Who knows? Knowing Oda, I have no idea. Right? I have no idea. But those are my predictions right there. I'm so excited, obviously. Like, this, not only is One Piece back, but man, when you're doing stuff like this, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe we're getting next week's gonna be crazy for One Piece. Even though the anime is on break, we're going to be getting the One Piece Day next Friday and Saturday, which is going to be insane, man. I can't wait to see what's shown off there. What are we gonna see? One Piece Day. We're gonna get the chapter. And I believe we're also getting the cover and color pages for One Piece as well. So that's going to be awesome. Really can't wait for that as we set up for the Drums of Liberation stretch in the anime. So I can't wait to watch those episodes. I need to do that next week for sure. Need to do it 100%. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Afterthoughts for the Big Three in what has been a really special week. And I thank you all once again for the support, for the reverie stuff, and for being patient with me and not being able to get as much content out because I was preparing for that. But now we're starting to get back into the regular schedule, stuff of that nature. And especially with One Piece back, we are back to and ready to go up and line slow more. And so let me know what your thoughts on all of the stuff in here, or whatever it is that you're involved in, whether it be Naruto, Bleach, and or One Piece. And I will see you for the next installment of the best-selling manga in history. There will be videos coming out throughout the course of the next couple of days before the chapter drops, and of course after the chapter we're going to be hopefully covering the One Piece Day stuff. I don't know if I'll be covering it here on YouTube. It'll depend on the magnitude of the announcements, right? The announcements are big, we're definitely doing videos on them. But if not, I'll try to stay on top of it as much as I can over on other platforms. So we'll see what happens there. But this year looks like it might be pretty big for One Piece Day, but we'll see. We'll see how big it ends up being and how big the announcements are. So until then, I will see y'all. Take care. God, man, all of this stuff was awesome. Minato One Shot, the Bleach episodes, and that phenomenal One Piece chapter. Big three. It makes me, I got my joy back. You know, I got my joy back. Not that it ever left, honestly, because it's been such a magnificent time, but it's just one of those things to where it feels good. It feels good to say that you covered the big three once again. It was a special thing, and I look forward to the next time I'm able to do so. Right? That'll be really, really cool. So I will see y'all. Take care. Man, what's gonna be in store for us, dude?